Two words that can make half the class cheer and the other half groan out loud. Because let's be honest, group work can be amazing, or a complete disaster. There's the person who never shows up. The one who wants to control everything. The awkward silence. The last-minute panic. Sound familiar? But what if I told you, it doesn't have to be like that? Group work, when done right, doesn't just help you pass a project. It teaches you how to lead, communicate, and solve real-world problems. It's not just about getting a grade. It's about learning how to work with people who think differently, act differently, and sometimes drive you a little crazy. So today, we're diving into how to make group work actually work * without the stress, the drama, or the all-nighters. Let's go. Let's start with the root of the problem. Most group projects fall apart because nobody actually knows what they're supposed to do. Everyone's waiting for someone else to take charge. One person steps up too much, the others disappear, and it becomes a mess. So here's the fix: assign clear roles. Early. Before the work even begins. And I mean actually talk about it. Not a casual, you'll take the slides, right? But a real moment of planning. You don't need job titles or official badges, but structure saves stress. Here's one way to break it down. The leader or coordinator, not the boss, but the planner. They help set the pace, check in on progress, and make sure everyone stays on track. It's about guidance, not control. The researcher. This person dives deep into the topic. They gather information, double-check sources, and make sure what you're saying is backed up by facts. The writer or editor. They organize the content, write it out, and make it flow. This isn't just about grammar, it's about making sure everything connects and makes sense. The designer or presenter. They bring it all to life. If there's a visual element or a presentation, they handle the layout, visuals, or speaking parts. If your group's small, no worries, people can double up. If it's big, you can even create mini-teams. Just don't leave it to chance. Because the moment everyone knows what they're doing, the entire group shifts from chaos to clarity. Next up, agreeing on expectations. This is probably the most underrated part of any group project, and also where most of the unnecessary drama starts. One person thinks it's fine to pull an all-nighter the night before. Someone else wants the whole thing wrapped a week early. And then there's that one person who's just trying to survive and hopes it all magically comes together. So here's what you do. Have a 10-minute chat at the start. Seriously, just 10 minutes. Talk about the basics. How are we dividing the workload? When should first drafts be ready? Who's reviewing what, and how? What's the plan if someone disappears or doesn't deliver? That might sound like overkill, but that quick talk can save hours of confusion later. And don't skip this because you don't want to be awkward. It's way more awkward to have a meltdown in the group chat the night before your presentation. People don't have to agree on everything, but everyone should at least understand the timeline and expectations. Because when the group's on the same wavelength, everything gets smoother. The tension disappears. The blame games stop. And the whole thing feels doable. Now, let's talk about feedback. The uncomfortable part. Most students aren't taught how to give or receive feedback. So when something's off, they either say nothing, or blurt out something harsh that makes things worse. But feedback doesn't have to be a battlefield. Here's one rule to live by. Focus on the work, not the person. Instead of saying, "Your writing doesn't make sense," try something like, "I think this section could use more clarity. Want to go through it together?" Or instead of, "This slide looks boring," say, "Do you want help making this slide pop a bit more visually?" It sounds simple, but that shift in tone changes everything. You're not criticizing. You're collaborating. And don't wait until the final hour to speak up. Build in regular checkpoints. Set mini deadlines. Example. Let's all have our parts ready by Friday so we can combine over the weekend. Let's meet Tuesday for a 15-minute review session. These aren't just check-ins. They're pressure releases. They keep the whole group from being blindsided when the deadline hits. And here's the bonus. When feedback becomes normal, not scary, your group gets way better, faster. And hey, if this is clicking with you, go ahead and hit like, tag someone who always ends up doing all the group work, and subscribe with the bell so you catch the next one. Now let's get real. What happens when something goes wrong? Because no matter how organized you are, someone will drop the ball at some point. Maybe someone doesn't show up. Maybe their work just isn't usable. Maybe they vanish into thin air. So what do? First, don't attack. And don't go completely silent either. Start by reaching out, calmly and privately. Something like, "Hey, I didn't see your part in the doc. Is everything okay? Need help catching up?" Sometimes it's a legit issue. People get sick. Life happens. Other times, they forgot. Or they just weren't taking it seriously. But this first move matters. You're giving them a chance to respond, to own it. If nothing changes and the problem keeps coming back, bring it to the group. Don't call them out. Just be real. Try. "Hey, I'm noticing we're getting behind on X. How should we adjust so we don't fall behind?" It invites a solution instead of assigning blame. And if that still doesn't work, don't be afraid to involve a teacher. Not as a snitch, but as a support system. You're protecting the rest of the group's work. At the end of the day, group work isn't about making friends. It's about learning how to work with others, even when it's messy. Even when people let you down. That's a real-world skill. And finally, the part most people skip, reflection. You finished the project. You hit submit. But before you forget it ever happened, stop and ask, what actually went well? Where did we struggle? How could we work better next time? Who took initiative? Who got overwhelmed? How could we support each other differently? It might feel like overthinking, but it's not. This kind of reflection builds your emotional intelligence. It helps you recognize your own strengths and your blind spots. And it prepares you for everything from future school projects to professional teams, internships, even entrepreneurship. Because let's face it, almost nothing great gets built alone. Apps, films, campaigns, research, businesses. They all come from collaboration. And the most successful teams out there? They aren't perfect. But they communicate. They listen. They adjust. They hold each other accountable without tearing each other down. That's the difference between a group that just gets by, and a group that actually grows. So the next time your teacher says, "All right, we're doing this in groups," don't roll your eyes. Step up. Be the one who brings clarity. Who keeps it calm. Who helps the team work better, not just harder. Because group work doesn't have to be chaos. It doesn't have to be stressful. With the right habits, it can actually be one of the best learning experiences you'll ever have. And the best part? You'll carry these skills way beyond the classroom.